Let's move on to agenda item 4, our Finance Committee report. You've got 2 minutes, Member Chair Davis, to beat Rod's time. So.
Okay. Let me go back to what the committee motion on the board was that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program, draft 3 on second and final reading. And I have an amendment.
Okay, so the motion then is that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program, SOEP draft 3 on second and final reading. Back to you, Chair Davis.
I move that we strike lines 317 through 321.
There's a motion to strike lines, repeat that, 317 through 321.
321.
Let's get that up on the screen if we can, and then I'll seek a second before we speak to that. We have a second from Member Lear. Back to you, Chair Davis.
Yeah, thank you. I think removing these lines, the lines, in my estimation, go beyond what the law is. And it opens a door to make it so that, for example, a child could graduate from, Davis High School or Juab High School or, name your high school, West High School, and never take a class from that school. This opens the door to get a diploma from that school and never take one class in that school. So I don't know that was the intention of these lines. I think the intention was to reinforce what's in code, which is that if you are not enrolled in your neighborhood school and you're say you enroll full-time in an SOEP school, then you can still, by law, take athletics, participate in athletics, and participate in extracurriculars. And so by just removing these laws, I think it removes the going beyond the law and just keeps the law in place where it is.
Okay, we have a question from Member Carey.
I was just going to speak against the motion, if that's in order.
It is.
So I mean, my favorite part of this draft are lines 317 through 321. I think it does meet the statutory language, and it allows students to take advantage of the opportunities afforded by the primary LEA. And if we're concerned about, and I think it's a valid concern, giving graduation diplomas to students who may not have attended that school, then let's put that into the rule. Like, let's proscribe that activity. But to take that same student and say, well, you can't access sports, you can't access the facilities or student honors program, as well as the other conditions, it seems unnecessarily punitive. And I think we are a public education system, and these resources should be made available to members of the public. And again, if we wanted to make sure that they couldn't graduate from a particular institution, that language could be inserted. Thank you, Chair.
Respond, Chair.
We have Member Bogus. I'm trying to keep things in order here, but
that's
you want to yield? Okay.
Yeah, I just I hear what you're saying, and the student should be able to participate in athletics, and they should be able to participate in extracurriculars, and all of these are according to code. What this does, though, is says when you get on the wrestling team, you don't have to come to fourth period. When everything's happening in fourth period, I don't think that's the intention of what we're trying to do here. If you want to be on the wrestling team or the soccer team or any other team that has a class on site, you've got to participate on site in the day. And this opens it up to say you can come to the games, but you don't ever have to come to the practices. And I just don't know that we want that. And then I think the other issue is the diploma, which I sounds like you're in agreement on. If you never take one class from this school, you shouldn't be getting a diploma from this school. Unintentionally, I believe this opens the door when you say you can't require any attendance to stay enrolled in this LEA. See, the question is the enrollment, and you don't have to be enrolled in the LEA to participate in the athletics and in the extracurriculars and such, unless you're also then going to take a class that goes with the extracurricular if it's required.
I've got Member Bogus, and then I have a brief thought, and then Member Carey. Member Bogus.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me? Okay. So my question would be, why don't we just strike line 319 to address the concern? And my second question, if I can ask two in one, is why are we putting sports activities as required courses during what should be instructional time for core academic subjects? Why do we have a wrestling class? Why do we have that's just what I heard Member Davis say. So if that's happening, my question is, why is that happening? Because to me, that should be extracurricular. It shouldn't be happening during a space where we have instruction, math, science, arts, things like that. So just two questions. And can we do what she is asking by just striking 319?
Yeah. Okay. We've got a lot going on here, but we've got. Hold on a second. You got to see if Member Carey is willing to let you step out of line here. So, I know there's questions going on here, but okay, Member Davis.
Okay, I will. I'll word it however we need to for Robert's rules, but I'll accept that as a friendly amendment and just remove line 319. Or I'll just make that my amendment if because it's not, I don't think, on the floor yet. I'll move to remove 319. But the reason that the period is required is because the student is allowed to get PE credit, or this not allowed, but the student gets PE credit for being on the sports team. And so that's where the bulk of the practices and such is happening.
So there's an amendment to the amendment here, and the amendment to the amendment is to simply remove line 319. So to keep 317 through 321 sans 319. Do we have a second?
Yes.
There's a second. Okay, now we are speaking to simply removing 319. So Member Carey or Member Kelly now. Go ahead. 319 only.
I'll just clarify a comment that
Is it regarding? I'm trying to keep things moving along. Is this on 319 or?
Yeah,
is this,
if they're not enrolled in the class, so you use the example of a wrestling class, they can be on the wrestling team and not be enrolled in the wrestling class. They can be on the football team and not be enrolled in the football class. The class, but the during the class, they're generally not holding practices, if you will. They're weight training, conditioning, various things like that. And so it is possible to be involved in that extracurricular activity, not be enrolled in the class, and they wouldn't receive the credit. Do you follow? Well, that's probably a coach level. That's probably a coach level thing then.
So we have if your comment is finished, next we have Member Lear, and then I've got Member Davis. Member Lear, go ahead.
My question or my point is to the example that Member Davis and then response from Member Kelly. And my experience is kind of what that dialogue came to, and that is that different coaches, different schools have different standards for that. But my experience with my own children and then also working with schools is that students are disadvantaged if they're not in that class. whether it's called weightlifting or whether it's the PE credit for that you get for soccer, or whether it's not something that allows the student to be fully engaged in the activity. So I think it, it you have to be able to attend that. You have to be willing to attend that class to really have the full advantage of that activity and experience.
Okay, Member Davis, then Member Brenton.
I mean, I'm willing to just leave that in for now, that you can't require it. If people come back and say, look, we can't have half our team here and half our team not, we may have to relook at another avenue. But for now, let's see how it goes and just take care of the diploma issue, and then deal with the others later if we do get more than a couple of one-off concerns.
Member Brenton.
No, I am all for parent rights and participation, but I just think the way this is written, if I'm reading this correctly, like Member Davis is pointing out, how can we expect a coach or a team or a band director to have a good, like even the children to have a good experience if they're not required to be at the practices? How can that be a functioning team? I think we're going too far to make it too easy for parents to just say, oh, my kid doesn't want to be at practice, but they'll show up for the games. Right. But an SOEP student who wants to participate in extracurricular should still have to be in person for that extracurricular. As I see, to me, that seems crazy that they could get credit or be part of it. But how can they be if they're not there practicing with the team or practicing with the band? Or, I mean, I can see maybe for an online art. Am I reading this wrong?
So we are, I think we're getting into the weeds here. We're talking about a coach who, brief experience, I've coached for a lot of years. If a kid doesn't show up to practice, they don't play on the games, right? And in fact, they're not part of the team for very long. That's not something that this board is hoping to tackle right now, right? I would never go into Cole's classroom and be like, hey, you will keep this student, right? You will, right? It's not going to happen. So again, the motion before us is to now remove line 319 from the rule. So I've got Member Bogus, then Member Davis.
Oh, I think you addressed it. We're just out of the scope. Practice is different than a class that fulfills a PE credit. And these lines aren't addressing practice at all. They're just addressing courses that would fulfill a PE credit.
Member Davis.
I'm ready to vote whenever you are.
Okay, so the amendment to the amendment is to remove line 319. Let's vote. That passes 8 in favor, 5 in opposition. Those in opposition being Member Hymas, Member Wood, Member Carey, Member Brenton, Member Hall, and we have 2 absent. Okay, back to so our amendment, that was the amendment to amend. Our amendment then is the same thing that we just voted on, which would be to remove line 319. So is there any opposition to that since we just voted? Well, there is opposition. We're going to revote. Let's throw it back up on the board.
Wait, why are we revoting?
Well, because we had a split vote. It wasn't unanimous.
Oh, we're voting on the main motion now.
Well,
As
the
amended.
amendment. Yeah, we're back. We voted on the amendment to the amendment. Now we're on the amendment. We're just trying to undo this rabble that we've
changed
done.
my amendment to match that language.
That was
because it
seconded by
wasn't-
Carol and belonged to the body.
Okay.
So here we are. Let's vote on that again.
Okay.
And Okay, that passes 8 in favor, 1 abstention, 5 no votes. Those in opposition, or the abstention coming from Member Green, welcome. And the opposition coming from Member Carey, Member Brenton, Member Hall, Member Wood, and Member Hymas. So let's put the main motion before us then. We have the motion is that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program SOEP draft 3 as amended on second and final reading. Let's vote. Oh, Member Hall, sorry, go ahead.
I had it
Member
on.
Hall.
I thought I'd turn it back on. So Member Earl reached out and she had another amendment that she wanted me to move this morning if she wasn't here in time. So she'd like to amend lines 631 through 33. I think that we already have it up there, and she'd like it to say, let's see here. Yes.
Go ahead.
Member Hall can make this on his own behalf, but
Okay.
a person
Right, it will belong
Okay.
to him, but
So I
yeah,
just want to make sure that
I
was
think
Thank
we
you so
get
much,
it, yeah.
Carol. Appreciate that. So we would move that it would say, if a course may reference mature subject matter, a provider shall attach a disclaimer to the course description that states this course may contain mature content and may not be suitable for students of all ages.
Thank you, Member Hall. Do we have a second? We have a second. Do you want to speak to it, Member Hall?
I think this is a good addition, a good change to this. I was going to read the original, but somehow I flipped it upside down on my screen, and I can't flip it back, so I have to read it like this.
Oh.
I'll fix it here.
Can we get some tech support from Member Hall?
You know,
Okay, so the motion then is to include in 631 to 633, you could see the blue language. It's to, so the last sentence, instead of this course may not be suitable, we're going to, the motion is to add contain mature content and may not be suitable. We have a question from Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe this, if Chair, if I may, it may be a question for staff to help us maybe understand is, my understanding, if a course contains mature content, my understanding is they would already have to have a parental consent to teach that content. I'm just curious to know if that is the case, if I'm understanding that correct, and is this duplicating what's already required?
Do we have a staff member? I saw Ben point to somebody, but I mean, I could do that, Ben. Thank you.
Tammy Gear, Director of Achievement Support Services. So this is referring to descriptions. So when a student is looking at courses through seats, this would pop up that would, so that they would know right then that there was mature. They still have to go through all the forms and all of the requirements like for health, but there are other things like some courses might talk about DUIs or marriage or dating. So it's not just the health stuff, there's other mature content.
Okay, Member Lear?
of mature content, because what I don't want my students registering for classes that are about guns, and there are many people who would not consider that mature. They'd consider that a good class for 6-year-olds. So I feel like there needs to be a definition for mature, because this could send a erroneous message to those students registering. Is there a definition?
Please, staff, yes.
So we do not have a definition of mature content. I'm not sure if in other rules that there's a definition of, but in SOEP, we have not defined mature content.
Can I follow up briefly, Chair?
Follow up, yes.
So it's either my second part of my question is who decides if it's mature? The teacher, teacher wants every student to register, so they're rarely going to discourage any kind of a enrollment. So that concerns me. And I also feel like putting that burden on a teacher to decide if this is mature, which is undefined, is not a reasonable kind of a responsibility. So that concerns me about adding mature without a definition, understanding that only the teacher is going to decide what he thinks is mature.
Okay. I don't know if I do have a comment. I don't know if you have a comment. I do have Member Earl online. Member Earl?
Hi. Are you asking me? Sorry, I just barely got on. So please tell me where we're at.
So Member Lear is asking if there is a definition of the mature content, what that looks like. Is that grade specific? Where does that land?
I don't have a definition of mature content. No. If there's, I just think if you're going to put a disclaimer in there, which I think some of this content needs in it, I think there's an acknowledgement of it. If mature is not the right word, in our rule, that's what it says. If it's mature content, we're going to actually add a disclaimer, which we should. I think there's content in there for younger kids that are taking courses that they need to be aware of. So anyways, I just think this is a good motion, good direction to go.
Thank you. Member Earl, Member Carey.
Yeah, I support the motion, and because it doesn't say there is mature content, it says this course may contain. And I think that flexibility is what this rule provides by saying, look, some people may consider this mature, some people may not, but we're going to err on the side of safety and say it may contain. And so I don't think we need a hard and fast definition because the language provides that flexibility. I would be more concerned if it said this course does contain, and then I think there's more emphasis on defining what mature means. But because the flexibility is granted by the use of the word may, I think it's suitable for the board.
We've got Member Davis, then Member Lear.
I would support language that said high school age appropriate content, because the reason for the motion is because you could have an 8th grader registering an SOEP for a high school class talking about dating and such. When I hear mature content as a parent, I'm thinking like X-rated movies. I'm thinking those shows on Netflix I don't allow my kids to watch. I put on the filter. So I don't want to necessarily spread out to parents that they're going to have mature content as defined by, it seems like, a lot of people in the world. But I would support high school age appropriate content so that an 8th grade parent knows. But I do think that's already included. We are putting into this a provision that you can't even register for the class until you meet with the counselor, so the counselor can explain to the parent, this is a high school level course, not typical for an 8th grader.
Member Lear?
Or level better. I prefer that. Gives some definition. My concern is not just for the parents who might be concerned, or the students. My concern is for the teacher who might misstep and might consider it's not mature content and then be targeted by some parent and make a complaint, and then it initiates an investigation. And I don't think that's fair to teachers. So if you want to assure me that a teacher will never be targeted for not putting that word mature, then I would feel better about it. But right now, the high school level has some objectivity to it. Thanks.
Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair Hymas. I am uncomfortable with the language high school. I think there's a lot of things that are taught in high school that many families in our state view as inappropriate. So if we just say high school, that's not the same thing as mature. That stated, I would argue that I think we need to define what mature is in this context, because if we want a fair and sporting playing field, I don't know. It's just my thought. I don't have a definition for mature, so I won't move that at this time, but I do agree with Member Lear that we should consider that.
Member Hall.
I just want to make sure that we all realize in the original language, it does say if a course may reference mature subject matter. It's in there too as well. So if we're going to define it, we have to do that. Yeah.
On 631. Yeah. So seeing no lights, hearing no motions, the original motion is on the table before the board. So the motion is to amend lines 631 to 633 of draft 3 to read, if a course may reference mature subject matter, a provider shall attach a disclaimer to the course description that states this course may contain mature content and may not be suitable for students of all ages. Let's vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Member Earl. That passes 8 in favor, 7 opposed. Those opposed being Member Wood, Member Booth, Member Bollinger, Member Reel, Member Davis, Member Longacre, and Member Lear. So the motion before the board then is that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program SOEP draft 3 as amended on second and final reading. Member Davis.
I move to define mature in the language as stated by Specialist Gear.